Hi, welcome to Matt's Garage and part 2 of Project Poppa where we're giving some much needed upgrades to this 1950 3100 Chevy 5-window pickup truck. Last episode, we took apart the rear end and gutted the interior, and today we're going to install TCI's 4-link kit. Now, I'm still waiting for the kit. It's coming tomorrow, and that's going to be in this episode, but while I wait for the kit to come, we're going to take care of some prep, which involves cutting off the perches from the axle and removing all of the leaf spring hangers. Make this job easier, we're going to turn this axle upside down. I found when you're doing this, be careful because it tends to walk on the jack stand, so make sure you're pushing the axle while you're walking this backwards here. There you go. Thank you, that saved me some work. I had left my microphone on my sweatshirt when I went into the house, so I have to voice over the next couple of clips, but basically I'm talking about how you want to cut as close to the weld as possible using either a disc, cut-off disc, or a plasma torch which you lay across and sort of follow the contour of the axle. I'm also sharing how I'm worried about whether this is going to work out because I am terrible at plasma cutting. At this point, I've worked my way around all three sides. This is the last side. You can see the cut's pretty clean actually, and I finished this last cut and then get up to go get a hammer. So here comes a hammer and a couple of taps. Maybe more than a couple taps. There you go. All done. All that's left is the cleanup. So whether you use a plasma torch or an angle grinder or a cutoff wheel, you're going to end up in the same situation with little ridges you got to grind off. I'm going to hit it first with the stone wheel and then switch to a flap disc. Okay, I did a quick Rust-Oleum overhaul on the rear axle. Looks great. I left the places where I need to weld unpainted, obviously, but just a quick spray of black. I mean, it looks a million times better. Now for the leaf spring hanger removal. Goodness gracious. All right. Oh my God, that's heavy. This is the suspension kit. What is going on? So we're gonna unbox this. All right. Whoa. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the rod ends, they're already assembled, which is nice. The hangers, the Crossmember, the track bar, the hardware, instructions, and the coilovers. So not exactly rocket surgery. As you can see, everything except the hardware is raw steel. So I think what I'm going to do is actually paint everything. I know I may have to do some touch-up, but I'd rather have it painted and then have it assembled, painted, and then I'm just touching stuff up. The exceptions are, I'm not going to paint right around here where I need a weld to the axle, and obviously try to avoid the bushings a little bit. Okay, all these parts now have their liquid applied powder coated formula, and we're just gonna let those dry and then get back on the truck. To hang the 4-link, you gotta get this cradle to hang off your frame. Because of the exhaust, I can't get it in from the top on this side, and actually on the other side, I can't get it in at all. So I'm gonna have to cut the exhaust out or move it out of the way temporarily. It's really weird that what was supposed to be kind of a straightforward job escalated into something bigger. Have you guys ever heard of that happening before? You actually have to take out a lot more of the cross member than you think. Like, a lot more. All right. Let's test fit this sucker in here. Like a glove. Might have taken off a little too much of the cross member, but whatever. Now that looks wrong because it's angled, but actually it's parallel to because the frame kicks out, so it's supposed to be like that. Then you put bolts in, then you square these two up next to each other, and then you drill holes in the top. So I gotta do that next. All right, now that the brackets are loosely fit, I'm gonna install 3, I think these are 5/16 bolts. You just put them on loose, just to kind of locate them. And then I need to get that last one in. But now that the bottom bolts are in loosely, I'm gonna use so that's 88.5, 89.9, 1.1. So we're within a degree of 90. So that's 89.5. That's 89.9. That's already pretty good. It's 89.8. So those are pretty square. 0.2, I don't worry about half a degree here or there. I mean, it's not even that precise. So what I do need to worry about is getting these square to each other. This is kind of paradoxical because it says make sure the brackets are square to each other by measuring the front of the bracket and comparing it to the rear of the bracket. Also make sure the brackets are squared in the chassis. The easiest way to install the lower link bars, they should be equal distance from the frame rail all the way back, but the frame splays out. It's like 4 inches or more wider here than it is at the cab. So it can't both be square to each other and square to the equal distance from the frame. So I think I'm gonna, and I looked at the axle brackets are identical, so they're not angled out at all. So everything's got to be straight. So I'm just going to make sure these are square to each other, and they will not be square to the frame if they're square to each other, if that makes sense. Okay, I've used a combination of lasers, levels, string, everything else. I'm satisfied this is square and parallel, so I'm going to go ahead and drill the hole. Once those are in, then I can stop worrying about it. I got 2 of them in and tighten them down, so now I don't have to worry about it moving. All right, that is not going anywhere. All right, I've spent a fair amount of time measuring, remeasuring, and getting these things spaced correctly. They're supposed to be 33 inches apart, center to center, centered on the pinion. And then it's supposed to be 1 degree up from the pinion, which in this case would be down. So, and I've got that figured out. I've got my gas on, I've got my thing on. So basically I set this at 89, and then I set this to 90, and that's where I need to be so I can tack this into place. Okay. These are filled with gear oil, so I just need to be conscious that I'm not creating a fire and not seeing it. Need some light. That's got the proverbial not going anywhere stamp on it. Now I just gotta hang out, let this thing cool off. Okay, I cooled it down and painted it, so now I'm just letting the paint dry and then we'll throw it on the truck. Now we're supposed to install the rear coilover crossmember. Grab a measurement 28 1/8 inches from the rear bed bolt hole forward. Doesn't say the center of the bed bolt hole, but we'll assume that's what they meant. Right there, sort of on the rise in the frame. Somehow chewed right through that. Okay. I'll just use a pencil. For situations like this where I have to go through, I don't have long bits. So I take a normal bit and I get these screwdriver extensions that come sometimes when you buy crap at Harbor Freight or somewhere else. And then that way I can get this into the hole. And if the hole was too small for this to fit through, you can actually just, well, in this case it wouldn't work, but you can like actually put the bit in and then get the bit in. You can get the extension into the hole from the back side and then you can make it work is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, holes are drilled. Okay, you can kind of see the lower link bar over here just has a regular bolt through it. But on this side, the track bar actually serves as the lower attachment for this link bar. So this clevis goes, that's basically the orientation there. You can see it there. So the bolt goes through the lower link bar just like normal, but instead of a nut, it's got this clevis. And the other side of that clevis will attach to the lower link on the front of the other side. I guess it's the back of the other side, but you get what I'm saying. So first let's get this bolt through. Now just looking at this, I can tell I'm gonna need to lengthen the link bars quite a bit to get it back to exactly where it was. Let me just finish, you get what I'm doing, right? I'm basically just attaching the link bars to the bracket. I'm gonna finish doing that, get it all mocked up, and then get this thing to right height, do some final adjustments, and then start tightening things down. Okay, the 4-link is installed. I haven't fully tightened down all the hardware yet. I'm about to do that, but it took some adjustment. Like the lower link on this side wasn't exactly the same length as the lower link on that side. Probably due to some variation between maybe where I welded on the brackets or how the brackets are fabricated, or even some variation in the vehicle side to side. My main goal was to line it up with these marks I made with the laser, so that's dead center over the axle on both sides, and make sure it's not so short that I crimp the, I put pressure on the drive shaft. I was a little worried that that lower link wouldn't clear the drive shaft, but it does. I've got my pinion up at 5.5 degrees to match the back of the transmission. I'm gonna double check that when I get this up in the air. But I'm gonna tighten everything down, then I'm gonna put the lift up and let it ride up and see how it cycles. You're supposed to torque the big stuff to 120 foot-pounds, which in the case of this Harbor Freight Impact is all of the Ugga-Duggas, so. These are the coilovers provided. They're not high-end, they're not adjustable, they're just way better than leaf springs. This hangs here. Ooh, that just barely clears. Now hold on, that's the bottom, maximum bottom out travel of that shock. Let me see what the right height is when it's on its weight. Hey, 7 inches. It's only 8 inches. So these coilovers are severely limiting my travel somehow. And maybe that's a sports car thing, you know, I don't know. So I need to do some research and thinking. Dang it, I hate thinking. I've decided that I'm overthinking it. So I'm gonna tighten it down, not worry about it. I think you can adjust the droop by increasing the preload on the spring, like squeezing the spring down, and then it'll give you more droop. But at the same time, like, unless you're lifting wheels, it doesn't really matter. So I think I'm just gonna rock it, see how it performs, and then adjust accordingly. Okay, the hip replacement on Poppa Bear is done. I just need to press the bearings on the axles. Just dropped my camera, that was fun. Now, everyone's got their preferences on this stuff. I like to use some Bow Shield, some very light oil here, just to give it the best, smoothest engagement. Usually we'll have like an old race or something from an axle job that I've done. And I'll put that on there, and that's what I'll use to apply pressure to the lock ring. All right, we are bottomed out. All right, I have no idea how these brakes go on, but we'll try to figure it out. So the 1980 Firebird calipers I see don't have this thing in it. It's just an empty cavity. I think I need to compress this with a, what do you call these things? Spanner wrench type thing. I went to O'Reilly's and got the proper tool, and I tried to turn this caliper. It won't go more than 1.5 turns. I tried it on the other side, no problem. Got the disc pads loaded, the brake pads loaded on the rotor, tightened up. That side's done. But this side, I've got it on order, and so I'll do it later this afternoon. But for the purposes of the 4-link, the suspension is done. And we've installed this TCI bolt-on kit. The only welding is for the brackets that go on the axle. And, you know, was it difficult? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. Wouldn't say it's a beginner job, but for an experienced mechanic, no problem. Looking forward to getting this on the road, seeing how it performs. And so this was really the first major upgrade we did on Poppa Bear. On the next episode, we're going to install the rear fuel tank, which I sincerely hope there is room for. We'll find out next time on Matt's Garage.